So, Luke, Merry Christmas to you. Or should I say Merry Boxing Day, since we're recording this on Boxing Day? How was your Christmas?
Yeah, it was good. Thanks, Michael.
Yeah, what did you get? What was your... Well, no, not everything you got, Luke. Let's calm down. What was your favourite gift you got?
My favourite gift was 3 pens that I got.
Oh, really? What was so good about them?
They work.
Oh, wow, that's incredible. Blimey. My favourite gift. Good question. Actually, true story. I know I said I wasn't going to tell any stories, but I got there and I was like going through everyone's presents, organised everyone's presents. I couldn't find a single present for me. Eventually I found one present for me and I was like to my nana, I can't find a present for me. And she was like, oh, we must have lost your present then. Oh, crazy. And she was looking around everywhere and then she was like, actually, Michael, I don't think we bought you a present. I mean, it's fine, because like I say, I'm a minimalist, so it's whatever. But the consequence is that I only really got 2 real presents, which are both from my parents. Oh, no, I know what the best present was. This is important. I got a external hard drive, which is really good, because I was just about to run out of space on the external hard drive, which is bad, because I've got all of the audio for our podcast backed up on the external hard drive, and I was reaching a point where I was thinking, I might have to delete the backup audio, which means that if one of our videos got deleted or taken down or something like that, we may never, ever be able to access it. And I was like, no, our videos are too valuable. So yeah, now I've got a 2 terabyte external hard drive, so our videos are safe. And
you said we would keep this short.
Luke, this is about the podcast. And say you're happy. Say you're grateful that we can now have all of the audio for the podcast backed up.
All right, thank you, Michael.
You're welcome. Hello and welcome to Select and Reflect, the movie review podcast where we look at films that have come out in the near and distant past. We give them a couple of watches and evaluate them beyond first impressions. I'm your host Michael and I'm joined as always by my co-host Luke. And this week we are celebrating Christmas, that most holy of nights, by looking at Kirk Cameron's Saving Christmas. So Luke, why don't you tell us a thing or two about Kirk Cameron's Saving Christmas?
Sure thing, Michael. So, Saving Christmas, also known as Kirk Cameron's Saving Christmas.
Only known as Kirk Cameron's Saving Christmas, because we can't confuse it with the 2017 film Saving Christmas,
okay.
which we're going to be reviewing next Christmas.
Is a 2014 American faith-based Christian comedy film. Without any better set of words in the English language.
Well, you have to have faith in the comedy. That's the thing. The comedy, there's no actually evidence for the comedy. You just got to have faith in it.
All right. Directed by Darren Doan and written by Doan and Cheston Hervey. It was released on November the 14th, 2014, and it stars Kirk Cameron, Darren Doan, Bridget Rudonier, David Channon, Rafi Henley, and Ben Kaintz. And Michael, released on November the 14th, 2014. As I said, can you tell me the budget for Kirk Cameron's Saving Christmas?
Not much. I think I would honestly be surprised if this got more than $1 million, but I'm just going to go for $1 million because it feels like the lowest amount of money I can think of. $1 million.
$500,000.
$500,000. Okay, yeah.
And what about the box office?
32 million. No, that's too much. 18 million.
2.8.
Okay.
Yeah,
I don't know.
A bit lower than that. Anyway,
yeah.
Michael. So we are doing Kirk Cameron's Saving Christmas, obviously because it's Christmas and this is a Christmas movie. And this movie attempts to put Christ back into Christmas, as it says on the poster. Having said all that, did you like this movie?
No.
No?
No, I did not like this film. Did you like this film?
I kind of liked it because of how short it was.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's what I was thinking as I was watching this. This film, it does not try my patience, and there is something... It is so bad. I came downstairs after watching it with a big smile on my face because of just how awful it was.
Are you glad I picked it for you?
Yeah, I think you really made a good move. Yeah. It was good. And I loved it.
It's good. I'm very proud that I got this choice right then.
Yeah,
So
I loved it, but I hated it.
Okay. So, Michael, do you have any nitpicks for Kirk Cameron's Saving Christmas?
Yeah, just the one, actually. And it's more of a directorial nitpick, but yeah, just the one. Have you got any?
I've got one as well.
Okay, so as always, we have to flip a coin when we've both got the same number, because usually, whoever's got the fewest goes first.
No, you just go first, Michael, because
no,
in the Christmas spirit. No,
thank you. Okay, that's useful.
Wasting time. Go on.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. I mean, I was going to flip my my dental floss container, but it's fine. I love the decision to start off this film with an allusion to domestic abuse when Kirk Cameron's he goes to see his sister, who's actually played by his real sister in real life, and he's like, how's Christian? And she's like, oh, he's fine. Kind of as if there's something wrong. And Kirk Cameron's like, do I need to break some legs? Is he treating you all right? And I'm like, oh yeah, great. That's what I love to see in my family Christmas film. Is this guy domestically abusing you? Do I need to go beat up your husband? So I just found that funny. Wonderful
stuff. Yeah, so my one nitpick is the camera work. It is shocking. And
yes.
I mean, it's only 500,000, that's the budget, but still, I can't believe the lack of effort put into the camera work in this movie. So that's my one nitpick.
No, yeah, I mean, like I say, I was saying that the cinematography is terrible, but in order to complain about the cinematography in like a meaningful sense, you have to first think this film is a film, and it's not a film, which I think brings us suitably onto the fact this isn't a film. It's a thesis statement. It literally starts off with Kirk Cameron sat on a chair explaining to the audience like what it's going to be about. He's like, this is what the film's going to be about. It would be like if you watch, American Beauty, and it's something like, some people say, you could just get Kevin Spacey sat and like, some people say that the suburbs are a really great place, but actually a lot of people in the suburbs can struggle to be fulfilled. This is a film all about that. And you're like, oh, thanks, Kevin Spacey.
Yeah, so I'm just going to read the plot section from Wikipedia, which, it's an incredible section here. It says it stars, this movie, Saving Christmas, stars Kirk Cameron as a fictionalized version of himself. I don't really know how, but whatever. In Saving Christmas, Kirk Cameron, after explaining his views on Christmas directly to the audience, tries to convince his fictional brother-in-law, played by the film's director, that Christmas is still a Christian holiday. The film combines a comedic narrative with educational elements in order to put Christ back into Christmas. It says that most of Christmas's popular elements are biblical in origin, while criticizing the modern-day view of the holiday, especially from atheists. During the story, the film depicts some of the biblical events mentioned by Cameron, while he provides narration to the audience.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, there is a video which I saw on YouTube just around, which was called "Is Christmas a Pagan Holiday?" And it was made by a Christian channel. Their name is Act 17 Apologetics. I'm
check them out.
Guessing based on the fact that it says Apologetics is a Christmas Christian channel. But yeah, the video is called "Is Christmas a Pagan Holiday?" And I'm going to guess, I couldn't be bothered to watch it. I'm going to guess the answer they come to is broadly no, or possibly yes, but it doesn't matter. But that's the thing, like, basically, they probably, somebody sits down and explains how the different elements probably are not pagan, or are, depending on what their position is. That's what this film is. This film is like a YouTube video. It's like or a lecture. It's like, Kirk Cameron could have just stood up in a church and said, an evangelical church, that, hey guys, some people are attacking Christmas. I'm going to make a lecture on, how actually you can reinterpret. I don't even know if he realizes is reinterpret. We'll get into that, but you can interpret these things to be in line with a Christian theology. And that's right. But he made a film about it. And the film is just a bunch of people talking about exactly. What did you think of the premise?
Yeah. Well, I knew this was going to be great when I saw Liberty University in the credits.
Yeah.
I immediately, this shit's going to be good. And I already knew it was going to be good or bad, because I searched. I can't remember when I picked this movie, but it was like worst Christmas movies or something. I typed in, and this one came up. So I was like, yeah, we're going to be looking at this one. So yeah, you're right. Kirk Cameron is on his soapbox, metaphorically, and just talking about how all this stuff about Christmas connects to the original story of Jesus in the Bible. And obviously in this review we shall talk about how strong those connections actually are, and if he has an ulterior motive perhaps for saying this stuff. I don't know, but yeah, I think we should go through the plot of the movie now, Michael. If that's okay with you. Oh, you have something else to say?
Well, I was just going to say that, first of all, one thing I will say is that this film, it's a surprising film in many ways, because I kind of thought, obviously I thought this film would be bad, and one of the things I thought is that it would have a plot. That was the first surprise. But I think the other big surprise is that you think going into this film, or at least this is what I thought, that this film would be all about the war on Christmas from kind of, the liberal left. And Kirk Cameron, he alludes to that. And apparently I remember reading in a article, which we'll get into later, that it said that in the trailer material, there was the line, something like, about people having to say happy holidays. Actually,
not really
Kirk Cameron, he alludes to that. It's not really in it. There's one bit where there's the guy that does a conspiracy theory bit, and he's like, I saw this thing in Fox News, but it seems to be making fun of it.
Yeah, exactly.
So I guess in a way, if I had to say one positive, I feel like maybe the kind of people who were going to see this film were probably the kind of people who watch Fox News and believe in the war on Christmas, which obviously, we should say, even though this film was about the war on Christmas, the war on Christmas is just nonsense. Like, the first of all, happy holidays. Holidays means holy days, so it's not even like a secular term. But number two, like, you're an atheist, aren't you, Luke? Am I right in saying that? Would I be correct in saying you're an atheist?
Broadly.
Are you not religious?
Apart from when Man United are playing, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm going to guess that you actually quite enjoy Christmas. That seeing people, celebrate Christmas doesn't make you angry at all.
Yeah, I think it's my favourite holiday.
Yeah, I don't know, I don't know anybody who dislikes Christmas, precisely because, ironically, Christmas isn't really that much of an inescapably Christian thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the war on Christmas is just nonsense, and I guess credit to Kirk Cameron, this film isn't about the war on Christmas. But what is this film about, Luke? What is the main crux this film is driving
Well,
at.
yeah, I mean, this movie basically is about Christians who, I guess, feel, I don't know, self-conscious about Christmas. Is that the right word? They feel anxiety.
Yeah.
They feel...
I guess you could say kind of disillusioned.
Yeah.
Disillusionment.
Yeah, perhaps.
With the pagan origins of Christmas.
So I'm just going to go through the movie now.
Yes.
Because there's no real plot. It's just Kirk Cameron saying stuff about what he believes about Christmas. So I'm just going to go through it. As you mentioned at the start, we have a monologue from Kirk Cameron right at the beginning of the movie, and it's hard to decipher exactly what he means. And at the start, and I remember thinking, well, this is quite vague. It seems quite ominous, to be honest.
He likes hot chocolate.
Yeah, and then he narrates over a guy with a staff walking through some snow, complaining about modern storytelling, how it's unpredictable and you don't have bad guys and good guys. And I was thinking, well, he's definitely not a Ryan Johnson fan. Is Kirk Cameron, you can be sure of that. But very much enjoyed The Rise of Skywalker, I imagine. So anyway, we get into the actual proper movie, even though it's just still Kirk Cameron, but just kind of narrating, basically. He's still... That's the thing, it says at the start in the Wikipedia, he plays a fictionalized version of himself. Like, I don't know if there's a difference. Like, he's having a conversation with his sister, which is, like you said before, it's his real sister, which, by the way, seems unnatural. And the camera's in a weird place as well, behind blows stuff on the table and all that, but, that was my nitpick. And that's when we find out his sister's husband isn't into Christmas. And his sister's husband, by the way, what's he called, Michael?
He's called... Oh, I really love this. He's called Christian.
The genius of Kirk Cameron. Someone called Christian is not into Christmas.
He gets to kind of tell the story, and he speaks directly to Christian, saying his name as he speaks, which is what you normally do, Luke, when you talk to people. And he's like, you're worried about the idea that the Christmas has pagan origins, Christian. Well, don't worry about it, Christian. And he's speaking to Christians. It's pretty clever.
Oh, he's so smart. So basically, Kirk Cameron gives some reasons as to why some people might not like Christmas, and this is where I thought the movie's going to go in, like a war on Christmas, like bashing liberal people in that kind of direction. It builds an image of this person though who, I think it's what's called a straw man, Michael. Like they see kids smiling and think, what spoiled brats. I mean, nobody is really like this. You have Ebenezer Scrooge, and that's about it. And obviously he's a fictional character.
What?
I love it, by the way, when he says perverted symbols with a hidden meaning. So, like, somebody sees perverted symbols with a hidden meaning, and then it cuts
there's just so many of those people out there, aren't there, Luke?
Well, yeah, but then it cuts to candy canes and a bauble. I mean, what is implied by that?
Candy cane's like an anal hook.
Yeah. It's just very weird. Very, very weird choice of imagery. Anyway, Kirk Cameron then finds Christian, the person, in a car away from the party, asks him, hey, what's wrong, Christian? And I like how Christian, he doesn't seem in that talkative a mood, but then he's just asked a question and he goes on a massive rant about the commercialization of Christmas, how it's not what God wants. And I'm thinking, okay, so what, is this movie now going to tell me that the commercialization of Christmas is good? And it is what God wants, and apparently that is the message, which we'll get onto later. But I really thought he'd be an atheist, a liberal. He puts the war on Christmas. As you said before, Fox News. I don't know if you mentioned Fox News, but
I think I did. Yeah,
Fox News love to talk about the typical Christian bogeyman, if you will. So he gives his spiel about why Christmas isn't actually Christian, and the rest of the movie is basically Kirk Cameron trying to explain Christian why he's all wrong about everything. He literally goes, "You're all wrong.
You're wrong about everything.
About everything." Just.
I remember when he says, this is about Jesus and you're spoiling all of it. And I actually print screened that and I sent it to my girlfriend and I said, this is me every day to you. And I just felt like, I just love that idea. So I'm just going, this is about Jesus and you're spoiling. It's like such a passive aggressive way of being a Christian. Just be like, hey, guess what, Buster? This is about Jesus. Perhaps you've heard of him. Stop ruining everything.
Yeah. And
great.
I was just wondering that this was the point I was thinking, like, the hell is this movie? Because what I was thinking, what is Kirk Cameron the real Kirk Cameron? Is he like the teen heartthrob turned Christian evangelical? Is that him? And he's just normal Kirk Cameron. And it's not a movie, it's just Kirk Cameron, like an infomercial about Christmas. I was really just like, what is going on here? And then over the rest of the movie that crystallized, and I was like, yes, that is exactly what it is.
Yeah. I thought it was going to be like, well, at first I thought like, oh, this is going to be, because this would make sense, a Love Actually style thing. I mean, I know it's hard to associate Love Actually with Christmas, but like, because kind of obviously, famously, God's Not Dead has a sort of Love Actually structure to it, where you get a variety of different characters who are all connected in a certain way, and all of their stories relate to how God's not dead or Christianity. You get the Muslim who's oppressed and she becomes a Christian at the end, etc., etc. Anyway, and that's what I thought this film was going to be. I thought it'd be like different people who all have their issues with Christmas. Maybe you'd have one person who, say they've been bereaved this Christmas and they're struggling with, is there the person who's dead alive? You'd have another person who's an atheist and they're a bit upset. You'd have another person who's a Muslim and they can't celebrate Christmas. Oh no. There was a film I saw. It was like a Christian film. I can't remember what it was, but basically one of the plots was that the brother of the family, the son of the family, was away in Iraq, and he dies, and he was FaceTiming his family at the moment when he died, and he says, he's in Iraq, and he says, oh, it's so hard fighting for these people's freedom. A lot of them aren't even allowed to celebrate Christmas.
That's the best line ever.
It's Iraq. Anyway. But you'd get like all these different characters having their own different problems, and they would kind of interconnect like a film, like a movie with stories. But then the other thing I thought was like, oh, okay, no, it's going to be episodic, like an anthology. So it's going to be, the first one, he has this friend who, is struggling with Christmas and explains things to him. And then maybe later on he meets somebody else. But that's what I thought. But no, it kept going. Oh, wow, no, this is the whole film just talking to this guy in his car. So yeah.
Yeah. And I just look at what I wrote down and I just laugh because I was so naive with my criticisms because I just put, like, Kirk Cameron has all of these arguments up his sleeve, just available to be deployed, just ready to go like that. It's me clicking my fingers. And I thought, Christian doesn't speak for 5 minutes. This movie is just stopped trying to, movie is just, just stops trying to pretend to be a movie at this point, which is incredibly naive because literally I don't know it was really a movie before that, and the rest of it is just as bad. That's the thing. When you watch it for the first time, you are thinking, well, this is really weird. Okay, he's just like reading off a script. What is going on here? And then that's the whole movie, apart from the last 10 minutes.
Yeah,
which
and I guess maybe the first 5 minutes, even though if you ignore the bit at the beginning, where he stands, the
bit at the beginning isn't that weird, I guess, because you could say, well, some movies or stories beforehand they have a narrator giving an introduction. So I wasn't
the Grand Budapest Hotel.
Yeah, so I wasn't weirded. I wasn't weirded out by that. But yeah, God, man, I was just when you realise what direction this movie is going and what this movie is actually going to be, it is just eye-opening. It's like, oh, this is actually what this piece of art is going to. It's going to be about, because again, I'm not sure you can even call it a movie or art. I guess, that's not really.
You could call it a far, or you could call it a poovie.
Right. Let's talk about the first bit that Kirk Cameron speaks about for 5 minutes while he's definitely not reading off a script,
which is the nativity. Well, I think first of all, it's worth noting that the overall arching point is that for the main crux is he's like, oh, it's pagan. Which I actually just want to say this quote, like this really small quote. It was Cameron to the Christian Post. He said, "We kind of drink the Kool-Aid and believe pagans when they tell us they have ownership of these things," which I thought was fine. Because one of the things that I said earlier, I was like, I don't know whether or not Kirk Cameron's supposed to be saying that we can reinterpret these things, or if he's saying, no, this is what the things are actually about. This is what these events are actually about. And it seems like, he thinks that, yes, actually, these things all have their origins in Christianity, and obviously there's a big case, and in this case, obviously, with nativity, it's more like, the nativity, it's put to one side. All the pagan stuff takes over. But yeah, basically, the one thing that's crazy is that, like, Kirk Cameron's, he acts, you have to bear in mind, as we get through this, we go through the different things he said, every single time, the film is acting as if what Kirk Cameron is saying is obvious. Like, he starts off saying, oh, you're wrong about everything. You could not be more wrong. He says, oh, you're completely missing everything. And of course, his friend, who is just doesn't put there to agree with Kirk Cameron after every single argument Kirk Cameron says. It's like, oh man, yeah, you're right. I was so blind. I can't believe I didn't see that. And just, So with that in mind, the nativity.
Okay. Yeah, I don't really have anything about it because I'm not really sure about this part. This part, to me, the first bit, what is explaining the relevance. Or what's he actually explaining?
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing is, first of all, he doesn't really address the argument, because the argument is the nativity is put to one side and not really the main focus, which is, he doesn't actually explain why that's not true. But the other thing he does is he arbitrarily asserts that the manger was probably a cave because...
Oh yeah, I thought that was weird.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, what he basically tries to do is, he says, again, it's not even addressing the argument, obviously, but he says, oh yeah, picture it this way. He says, the manger was most likely a cave, and in the middle there was a stone where they would go to feed their animals, and they would carve it out of a stone. Again, I wonder whether or not that's true. Like, I was considering putting this a nitpick. Like, did they really carve stones? They had wood back then. Why wouldn't they make a trough out of wood? But apparently they made troughs out of stone. I don't know. So he's like, oh yeah, there's a cave with a stone, and then there's a baby in a cloth. Now imagine if you took that baby away, you'd be left with a cave and a stone and a cloth. Just like when Jesus was put in a cave, when he died, put in a cave on top of a stone, wrapped in a cloth. So therefore, the nativity is a future echo of the resurrection. You think, okay, yeah, you've like added in a billion things. Number one, okay, you've said it's in a cave. I don't know why you think that this inn would be, because that's the story is they go to an inn, and he's like, oh, they can't go to the inn, but there's a manger out back. Why? I don't think that this innkeeper was like right next to a cave.
Yeah, it's a very big stretch.
You can stay in a cave out back. And then, yeah, maybe they use stones as troughs. Again, I don't know why they would do that. I was actually trying to look for some evidence they wouldn't, but I got bored and realized it didn't matter. And then, obviously, number 3, his final point, he's like, well, okay, the baby's in a cloth. But what if you got rid of the baby? Then there would just be an empty cloth. Just like in the resurrection. And it's like, yeah, okay, by changing literally every single thing about the nativity, you've made it harken to the resurrection. But yeah, I don't know.
That's why I was confused about, because he doesn't really challenge what Christian is saying, and he's just going on about the similarities between the death of Jesus and the birth of Jesus, and like, again, about this fucking swaddling cloth, and I'm not really sure that's addressing his point, and I'm not really sure that Christ was born in a cave. I'm pretty sure it was a manger. That's how the story goes. I'm not really sure why connecting the birth of Christ to the death of Christ is that relevant. So again, it was just kind of, I mean, I was confused by it, but I wasn't thinking you're really wrong, because I was just like, okay, whatever. This is where this movie's going. And like I said before, my outrage at the direction of the movie was incredibly naive. Just looking back on it now, because then that story ends. Kirk Cameron speaks for.
I did want to say one thing about that actually, because one thing that he was definitively wrong about is that he implies that the slaughtering of the innocent was happening at the same time as the nativity scene, even though the slaughtering of the innocent happened when Jesus was about 2, and that's why they basically, fun fact, you won't believe this, Luke, Mary and Joseph and Jesus were refugees. They were forced to flee from Israel due to conflict for a while, and that's why they went away for a bit. But yeah, that didn't happen at the same time as the nativity, because obviously news travel was kind of slow. So yeah, and also just a minor point, every single person in the past was almost certainly wrapped in a cloth when they were a baby, and wrapped in a cloth when they died. Like, I'm pretty sure that's how like everybody died back then. I mean, nowadays people die differently and are born differently, but I'm pretty sure for most of human history it was like, oh, here's a baby, we better wrap him up in a cloth because he's cold, and we didn't like make little baby things that he's going to grow out of instantly. We'll just wrap him in a cloth. Oh look, it's a dead person. We don't want to see all that icky dead stuff. Let's wrap them up in a cloth. So it wasn't like unique to Jesus that he was born and died in a cloth. Anyway, yeah. Continue.
Okay, so yes, that's the nativity bit, and yeah, again, just he literally talks about it for 5 minutes, and Christian doesn't reply. And I was thinking Christian could say, like, oh yeah, I never thought about it that way, while Cameron was speaking, but they were too lazy to even do that. Like I said, just literally reading off a script. And so then we move on to the next section, which is involves the Christmas tree. And at first I was thinking, well, Christian, the guy, he makes a very good point about the Druids and the fact that Christmas was originally a pagan holiday and the trees had nothing to do with Christmas. Then Kirk Cameron, he insists that the Christmas trees are trees, goddammit. And it does feel like, and you'll bring up evidence as to why this is more than me, but I have a bit of knowledge on this, and it does feel like he started working backwards, like having to defend like the obvious Druid influences in Christmas by saying, well, there were trees in the Garden of Eden, so checkmate, Christian. There you go. You had trees in another Bible story. There you go. Do you want to say anything about that and how ridiculous that is?
I mean, first of all, number one, like, I thought this was just worth the fact. The Christmas tree was started in the 1600s in Germany, and it basically just spread around from there. But the other thing, and something they do get right, is that the Christmas tree, the reason why it was chosen is because it was an evergreen tree, and an evergreen tree stays evergreen throughout the whole year, as opposed to most trees which die. So obviously people were like, hey, all these other trees are dying, but that evergreen tree, or fir tree, is staying the same, it's staying green. So maybe if we bring it inside, it will ward off evil spirits. That's basically it. And the obvious point here, apart from anything else, is that this was very particularly a Northern European notion.
Yes.
Because in Southern Europe and the Mediterranean and Israel, they didn't have this idea of, oh, look, the seasons are changing, but that, all the trees are dying, but that tree's staying the same, because obviously in the Mediterranean, it's a completely different climate. The trees don't die in the winter. Lots of trees are evergreen throughout the whole year. So it's a European thing, which is obviously, you can say, oh, it's Europeans, need Christmas too, or Europeans wanted to remember Jesus in their own way, so they did this. You could maybe say that, but it's like, you can't claim it's a actual Christian tradition in the place where the Bible was written. They didn't have this whole concept of the seasons changing and things dying, and they didn't have fir trees that remained evergreen.
No, Michael, look, there was trees in the Garden of Eden.
Yes, that's the thing. He's like, and there's a bit where he's like, God made trees and he decorated them with fruits. So we bring trees into the house and decorate them with ornaments.
It's just he's working backwards. He's having to justify it.
Yeah. And it's just, it's dumb. Like, you're right, absolutely right that he's working backwards.
Yeah. And so then we get to my favourite part of the whole movie.
Yes.
When he says, Christmas, by the way...
one thing about the Christmas tree. No, he gets even more ridiculous. Sorry, we've got to talk about this. He then says, I'll tell you what, the Christmas tree is made out of wood. Do you know what else is made out of wood?
I was going to get onto that bit later. But
Okay. So basically he says, a cross is made out of wood too. So if you think about it, if you've got a tree, and then you cut it into a plank, and then you got another tree and you cut that into a plank, and then you put one plank across the other, and then you hung somebody on it as a form of political execution. That would be Jesus, wouldn't it, Luke?
Yeah.
So, obviously, Christmas tree. It doesn't take a genius to figure this out. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah. God. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kirk Cameron just explaining to Christian why Christmas trees mean so much. Or explaining. Literally reading off a script. It's so embarrassing for him. I'm embarrassed for him.
Yeah.
Oh, the cross is now a tree. I'm sorry, I'm not buying that. I don't care what you want me to see, Kirk Cameron. Those are two completely different things. Anyway, we'll move on to, again, like I said before, my favourite part of this whole movie and this favourite part of my explanation, the winter solstice, and how, according to Kirk Cameron, it has nothing to do with Christmas. The winter solstice has nothing to do with Christmas, even though it's 3 days after, and lines up perfectly, with the Christian belief about death and rebirth after 3 days and all that. It has nothing to do with the solstice.
Yeah, well, Luke, you don't know that Jesus wasn't born on December 25th.
Yeah,
so
we just
because we don't know he wasn't. That means it's logical to conclude that that's why we'd celebrate his birthday on December 25th.
This is what
it's obviously then, since we don't know it wasn't then.
This is what really gets me. He says we celebrate Christmas in December. Not because of the solstice, but because it's the darkest time of the year. Yes, that's what the winter solstice is, you fucking con artist. That's why the pagans celebrate the winter solstice, because it's literally the darkest time of the year. You just proved them completely right. Like, a sentence after. I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
It's so funny.
Then he said, enough of what the pagans want us to see. What, you've just bloody told everyone why you celebrate Christmas. Exactly around the same time as pagans celebrate the winter solstice.
That line should just haunt it around. We don't celebrate Christmas because in December because of the winter solstice, but because it's the darkest time of the year.
Exactly.
Brilliant.
Oh my god! Just how does he not, when he's writing this or reading this or whatever, think
just Google what the winter solstice is?
Yeah.
He's like, winter solstice. That's like pagan nonsense.
Yeah. Perhaps he doesn't know what the solstice is, what it is. Like, it's just a day that pagans celebrate. He doesn't have a clue. It's because it's the shortest day of the year or something. Maybe that's his explanation. His explanation is unbelievable stupidity and ignorance. So I think
you're right. It's great.
I think pagans have every right to be heard, to be honest, Kirk Cameron, considering Christians, literally ripped their whole religion off. You can delve into that a bit more, Michael, with the Catholic Church and how they were trying to recruit pagans. Also, then, Kirk Cameron just says a completely hilarious line, which is, I don't know, it's like an argument from a child. He says, well, even if, the winter solstice does have to do with Christmas, God created the winter solstice. So there...
I like that bit.
It's just such an easy cop-out for, Christians. It's like the Force in Star Wars. Well, this part of our religion, may have been ripped off from another religion, but, God created it. So there you go. It's not actually like that. And obviously, here's the thing with this whole thing about not giving paganism any credit for Christianity. You don't need to be so defensive or sensitive. You can just say, yeah, the pagans came up with some ideas and it was adapted by Christianity, but, there's a big difference between the winter solstice and what Christmas has become, and, it's an evolution of a tradition.
Yes, it's so obstinate the way he does it, it's just like, no. I just think like, but the weird thing is, it's like, it's simultaneously denying it without even being bothered to deny it.
Yeah.
He's just like denying it, but then he's admitting it. He's like, yeah. He basically might as well be saying, yes, we stole it from pagans, but we didn't steal it from pagans.
Yeah. It's like, when you keep on giving him an argument as to, okay, no, actually, pagans did create this, he goes, and his final thing is, well, God wanted it to be that way, so whatever. Just like
it's like that meme, you know that thing in a SpongeBob thing where it's like, excuse me, sir, is this your wallet?
Yeah. He also says this line, enough of what the pagans want us to see, which I found really funny because obviously paganism is a thriving religion that I'm sure many Americans have spoken
in a way, it's almost like this is you wouldn't have thought that you could get more detached and like persecution complexy than the war on Christmas, but I think we've got even better with the pagan war. Those pagans, they're at it again.
Well, that's the thing. Like the whole thing about bashing paganism and how Christmas has nothing to do with it or the winter solstice. It just screams insecurity. Like this person isn't happy that their religion isn't like incredibly special and it doesn't have like divine rights or something, that it actually evolved from something else, which is what really happened. It just, like I said, it just screams like this person is incredibly insecure about their religion. And I mean, that's what I took from it. So I don't know what you took from that, but that's
I definitely agree.
It's just so bizarre, like the points he's making and like how he says, how that it has nothing to do with the solstice, nothing what the pagans want us to hear. God created the solstice, so there. Like I said, it's like an argument of a child. It is incredible. But anyway, Christian, the guy, he is convinced.
Yes.
I mean, of course he is. Christmas trees are now part of the Bible story, obviously. And then they move on to Santa. And by the way, Michael, did you know that Santa is an anagram of Satan?
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's crazy. Like, you never really would have thought of it, but yeah. See, I remember actually one time in church when I was like a little kid, and I went to church with my grandma. There was a line, and it was like, from Satan's grip, and I was like, from Santa's grip. And yes, funny. Anyway, it's an easy mistake to make, so I worked that out. Oh, sorry, I mean, when are we going to talk about the fact? I just wanted to say this now. That guy, Christian, I can't remember the actor's called, although he's a director also. He directed a film called something like The War on Free Speech, because I was looking it up, and I thought, because when I was watching it, I thought he was actually Kirk Cameron's brother-in-law, because I was thinking to myself, like, the main reason I thought, because obviously I found out eventually he's a director who's directed such classics as that, The War on The War on Free Speech, but he was like chewing the scenery so much. He was like, okay, what are you going to do? You're going to show me Santa Claus? Oh yeah, I imagine, I'll read the Bible. There's the guy in a big red suit and a white hat. Oh, that's Santa Claus going, ho ho ho. Where's ho 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 in the Bible? Oh, you can't show me ho. Where's the sack of presents? Hey, Luke, where is it, huh? What are you going to do? You're going to bring out 13 Corinthians 15:43, huh? What are you going to do, buddy, huh? I'm like, calm down, mate. You don't, act like a normal human being, maybe. That's what I do.
Yeah, I mean, he's...
But yeah. Apart from that, yes, Satan. Yeah. Oh yeah, you take the move it around here. Satan. Who's taking the focus away from Jesus? Satan? No, Santa.
Yeah, I did laugh out loud when he said Santa is an anagram of Satan. That was just great. And Santa apparently also carjacked Jesus, then drove the car saying "rolling, rolling, rolling."
Oh yeah, that was a great bit too.
I guess. So yeah, Kirk Cameron does his spiel again. Reading off a script about how Santa is actually part of Christmas. Oh, sorry. Part of Christmas, part of Christianity. He says Santa is an action hero, and it seems like he's someone from Lord of the Rings, apparently. Yeah. Then he so it's obviously Saint Nick. That's who Santa is based off. I knew that.
Sinterklaas.
That's the Dutch version of Santa Claus, obviously. And yeah, he tells the story, Kirk Cameron, of Santa Claus going into this council meeting and beating up some guy for disagreeing with him.
Yes.
And we get some techno stuff over the background when he's doing that.
Goodness me.
Yeah, Santa wasn't politically correct. I love how
I like that line too.
It's a great line. Yeah, people in whatever this was set in, like 4th century AD.
It's 326.
Yeah, 4th century AD. Yeah, so we're like,
yes.
Well, political correctness. Fuck that, man. They were the Donald Trump Jr. Of their times. Was the hardcore Christians? Was Saint Nicholas? Didn't care about all that lib stuff. So the music fits, obviously. And by the way, I just want to point out before we get into the actual, whether all the stuff is correct or not, which I'm sure you'll go into. Yeah. He's not even in front of a council when he's doing this. He's just like this heretic is just in front of a couple of guys who are nodding and agreeing with him. Like they couldn't even be bothered to, hire some more actors and do a whole council scene. It's just so lazy.
Yeah, it's literally just like a guy. Also, I don't really know why Santa sounded like a hillbilly, but whatever. It's fine. It's It's weird because, I mean, apart from anything else, the other thing is, okay, so obviously we can get into whether or not it's accurate, and spoiler alert, it's not really. But apart from anything else, it's not really addressing the point. At least with like the tree thing, you could say if it's true, then that's meaningful. But with this one, even if you said everything he's saying was true, it wouldn't really mean much. Because apart from anything else, okay, it's still celebrating like a human being and putting him at the center, which makes sense. Like, because when you break it down, what Saint Nicholas was in this context was somebody who was sort of a defender of the faith, which, by the way, and I hate to say this, but I've got to say it. No, I won't say it. I'll leave it later. But what you've got with Santa Claus is someone who was it feels so weird to say Santa Claus. What you've got with Saint Nicholas is somebody who was a defender of the faith. But why would you put somebody who defended the faith as being more central than the person, God, the God man, the, second person of the Trinity, who was, came in flesh on Christmas Day? Why would you have some random guy who defended the faith, like, later, be important? It makes sense, like, even if Kirk Cameron's right, it doesn't explain why we would have Saint Nicholas be this important person. So that's number one. Number two, obviously, Santa Claus looks nothing like Saint Nicholas, and he just like brushes over this. He's just like, oh yeah, just imagine Santa Claus, but like he looks nothing like Santa Claus.
Why does
because obviously,
Santa wear red and white, Michael?
Well, because of Coca-Cola.
Exactly.
Yes. But yeah, that's the thing. Because obviously, a fun fact actually is that Santa Claus is an amalgamation of two people in British culture. Father Christmas, who was basically Father Christmas. So basically, it's a pagan god. Oh, pagan god. There it is. Who was like the god of wine and festivities, and he was a big fat man. And then you had Sinterklaas, who was a Dutch mythic thing, and he was an elf. And the reason why, a lot of people don't know this, but it's a good fact, the reason why Santa Claus comes down people's chimneys is because originally Sinterklaas, the elf, would come down people's chimneys. And then, of course, that got combined in America into, because obviously America has a big German population and a big English population, got combined into Santa Claus, who is a big fat man who goes down your chimney, which makes sense. But that's why, but the point being, you'll notice all of that happened in the, 19th century, hundreds of years after the,
maybe even thousands,
Battle of Nicaea. But, on the subject, so I guess now, whether or not this is real is important. So basically, the answer is not really. Number one, there is a good chance that St. Nicholas didn't exist. Something the Catholic Church would do is make pagan deities into saints in order to win over pagan communities, which is not very good for them to do.
So wait. When Kirk Cameron says he was a real person who really existed,
he wasn't.
He's not actually he telling the full truth.
Yeah, he might have been, but you can't with confidence say he was, because there is some evidence that he was. I mean, we don't have much mention of him, whereas, for example, with many saints, we do have reference of them. And one saint we have a reference of is Athanasius. And Athanasius, like, if you were to, if you were to ask any Christian, that's not accurate. If you were to ask any Christian who knows anything about apologetics, to say, like, who is the great defender of Christian orthodoxy in the, the period of the ante-Nicene period. The ante-Nicene means before the Council of Nicaea, and leading into the Council of Nicaea. Every single person with the exact same answer, Athanasius. And he's got a great name too. But yeah, Athanasius was the person who essentially established modern Christian Christology. He was the one who said, hey, there's a way that we can make all of this make sense, which is basically that Jesus is 100% God, but also 100% man, that he's one person of the Trinity, which is one God, etc., etc. All of that stuff. Meanwhile, you had Arius. By the way, I mentioned Arius in another episode. That's fun. But Arius was wrong, basically. I mean, what he said is not really makes sense, doesn't really make sense given the whole of the rest of the Bible. But his theories were basically soundly refuted by Athanasius, who did it, by the way, without punching Arius in the face. And another thing, actually, which I saw, which I found interesting, is that apparently it was illegal to hit somebody in the presence of the Roman emperor. So if St. Nicholas did hit, because the Emperor Constantine was there at the Council of Nicaea, so if somebody did hit Arius at that council, they would have been punished. So anyway, the important thing is, none of that's true. And again, like, that's the annoying thing about it. It's not even just that that story. The annoying thing about it is that there is a guy who was the champion of Christian orthodoxy, and that was Athanasius. He was the guy who stood up and said, this is what we believe and this is why we believe it, and gave a really good argument that was able to convince people. And it's true to say, actually, that the Christian orthodoxy was established without a need for huge amounts of violence or suppression. Most people accepted it based on the quality of the arguments provided by people like Athanasius. But, like, that's the only thing. There's truth there, but it's just like he's like, and the reason he's done it is in order to elevate Santa Claus. So ironically, he's done exactly what the film is supposed to be saying, like, they're not doing. The whole argument this guy says is like, Santa Claus is ruining Christianity because he's at the center of everything. And then Kirk Cameron's like, no, he's not. But by the way, Santa Claus is great. And the way he decides to show that Santa Claus is great is by ascribing to Santa Claus, a role in the Christian faith, which is actually better assigned to a completely different person who most Christians don't know the name of. Even though most Christian apologists who care about Christian theology know Athanasius, most actual Christians don't know Athanasius. They do know St. Nicholas, even though St. Nicholas probably didn't exist. And then, in the midst of all of this, even if you accepted all of this, it still wouldn't explain why Santa Claus is at the center of something which should be about the incarnation of Jesus. So I guess I just need Kirk Cameron to tell me another story. Anyway.
Essentially, yeah, Kirk Cameron is wrong in a lot of aspects. So anyway, then we have Christian and Kirk Cameron saying, Santa is the man. Yeah, he is. It's cringe, I believe the word is, Michael. Cringe. Christians trying to be, cool and relevant, I think has to go down as the worst thing ever. Just everything, out of everything. Just the worst thing, yes. So, yes, that's the end of the storytelling, and yes, Christian realizes that everything he's been concerned about involving Christmas is baseless, doesn't have any foundation, and he can be happy and celebrate Christmas and not have to worry about any of that stuff that was plaguing his mind. And we'll talk about the ending in a bit, but first let's get on to materialism, Michael, because this is the next big thing that comes up which needs to be discussed in terms of this movie and Christian theology, I guess.
I mean, not too much, but the first thing I wanted to say is that the guys, like this, you were talking about how you at the beginning thought this was going to be a real film, and you wrote down all these cute criticisms as if you thought it was going to be an actual film. I did that too. I wrote the guys rant was so really on the nose. Like how, like when he first starts ranting and he's like, "Oh, I see all these children and they're bratty little kids, and she wanted this present and her mom wasn't giving it to her." And I was like, "Well, this is on the nose." Little did I know that it was going to get much worse. Anyway, apart from that, I mean, again, is the argument really? He makes one. Okay, I'll say the nice thing before you say all the bad things. I liked his claim. I thought it was at least clever that he was like, well, Christmas is about the incarnation, which is God coming in the flesh. So it makes sense to have a load of material things to, make us think about the fact that God came in the flesh. Okay, that's fine. You can say, oh yeah, God came and ate and drunk and slept and whatever else, just like us. So therefore we should do all those things on Christmas as a way of remembering that God came. Okay, yeah, that's a good argument. Anyway, now explain all the bad things, Luke. Do it. The main bad thing is really just that he doesn't really address the central point. But yeah, what have you got to say?
Yeah, no, that's the thing. Apparently, when we think of Christmas, we shouldn't think of giving and generosity, passion or charity. I don't think any of those words are mentioned in this movie, which is incredible. He does mention the family part, which is good. Rather, we should think of beating heretics. Herod's campaign of killing babies. The execution of Jesus and how fucking bloody it was. And all of this stuff is just... I can't believe it when I was seeing it. It's like, surely the best thing about convincing people like Christian who's uneasy about Christmas, being a Christian, is that, well, what is the spirit of Christmas? It's about giving and it's about compassion. And he really doesn't go down that path, and instead does focus on materialism, like you said, which is just completely
I think basically, and that's the thing, like really, I think. So I'm going to make a really small actual theological point, which is there is a passage in the Bible where somebody gives Jesus some anointing oil, and Judas says, that oil could have been used to feed the poor. And Jesus is like, Judas, shut the fuck up. And basically the point of that story is that, you shouldn't be one of those people who just is obsessed with being kind of meek and humble and like never doing anything for yourself and stuff like that, to the point that you just become miserable. And that's a good point. And that could be a point that was made. Again, if Kirk Cameron actually wanted to make a theological point, he could say, hey, Judas one time spoke out against using oil to anoint Jesus because he said it could have been used to feed the poor. So, we shouldn't be just so obsessed with these things that we completely lose sight of actually living life. That would be a good point. But the problem is obviously, and the thing is, he could have just said, maybe when you have Christmas, make sure that your kids are grateful. Make sure that when you give your children, you're not just teaching them to, or watching them have what they like and enjoy it, but also that you yourself are enjoying I don't think he even talks about the obvious thing that you enjoy giving people things they want. For me, I've already mentioned how in the cold open, that I didn't get very many presents for Christmas because the one main person I was with had forgotten to buy me presents. But I honestly didn't care because I enjoyed watching other people open their presents. And like, I've reached the age where I don't really want that much. So I'm happy watching other people open presents. Yeah, Kirk Cameron doesn't even make that point, which you'd think would be the obvious thing. Like, oh, that's why you give presents, because it's not about receiving the presents, it's about giving presents to other people. Just show your appreciation for them, you know, that you come up with an inventive way to show like, hey, you know, I appreciate you. I'm your friend and I want to give you this thing which I think you'd like. And they go, oh yeah, I do like this. And that's great. But he doesn't even say that. He's just like, oh yeah, get the richest butter from the creamery and have it with your, it's like, he doesn't even make the obvious points he could make, which annoys me. So yeah.
Yeah. But it does feel like this movie is coming from a very privileged
he had a nice house. Good for him.
It's easy to justify materialism, I guess, and not focus on giving and stuff when you're Kirk Cameron, when you've got quite a lot of money. And that's the thing, this movie, I assume Kirk Cameron's a Christian evangelical.
Yes, probably.
That would make sense. And that's the thing about him rejecting materialism in this movie. I think American evangelicalism, or white evangelicalism, I should say, like, it does seem to like to take the best version of their, maybe not the best version of their religion, the best parts of their religion, and just throw it out the door, like things that can appeal to just everybody, like compassion and giving and stuff like that, which everybody nods their hand and goes, yeah. And then most people were like, that's it. If you're trying to convince somebody to be a Christian, I'd assume that's where you'd start. Yeah. It's like, you're a good person if you become a Christian, because that means you can, you don't think about yourself, you give to charity, and all that. But just evangelical Christianity just seems to throw that out the window. It is very bizarre, and I think maybe because those things about giving and so on are inherently left-wing. Yeah. And as we know, the evangelical Christianity is quite radically to the right.
Yeah. Well, there's been a big stink recently because the Christianity Today, which is one of the foremost evangelical publications in the USA, published an article saying Donald Trump should be impeached. But basically they say, Donald Trump is a really bad person, and he's very corrupt, and he's not very good morally, so he should be impeached. And that's caused a big rift.
Yeah, again, these people, like, it is literally, even though it's Christianity and you don't think of Christianity as a cult, obviously you showed me that movie.
Jesus Camp.
Jesus Camp, that was it, yes, which was just obviously incredibly cultish, and that's what this Christian evangelicalism is. And again, it's amazing. It's like the only Christmas movie that flat out endorses materialism and doesn't talk about like giving and generosity, which is just crazy. And it just shows how far this evangelical version of Christianity in America has strayed from, I think, what it was meant to be in the first place. Kind of Passion of the Christ.
In the book of Acts, they talk about how they didn't have possessions. Like, Jesus' early followers didn't have possessions, and they just shared things equally among each other. What a bunch of communists.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's socialism, it's communism, and all of that. And it's stupid to say, oh, Jesus was a socialist. But he's definitely closer to being someone like that, socialist, than to like fucking Joel. Joel
Osteen, yeah, that's it.
Joel Osteen, yeah, who famously, when
Hurricane
hit in Texas, didn't open his church, which is just like, it's so on the nose. It's hilarious.
They should make like a Christmas movie about just Joel Osteen as Scrooge, and like people are like, wow, this Joel Osteen character is a bit unbelievable. I feel like, please help us, sir. My children are drowning. Get away! My church had just had new carpets fitted.
I did listen to a podcast about the evangelical right in America, and they invite this guy on who was a former evangelical Christian to talk about it, and he said, like, evangelical Christians know people like Joel Osteen are frauds, but they somehow think because of his success it kind of validates their religion. That's the way they look at it, which it's just a bizarre way
you
didn't
get that in a lot of cases with, I don't know, it must be something broad about human psychology, because there are other examples I can think of where, like, there are people who they get disproven many, many times, and yet people still walk around like, they're great because everyone listens to them. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Anyway, are you ready to hear the real meat of just how terrible this film is theologically, Luke?
Okay. Yeah, so you're going to dive into the theological awfulness of this movie, and I shall take a back seat to this.
First of all, I just want to start off with two quotes from this article, which apparently you found too, which is Saving Christmas from Kirk Cameron by David Carl Johnson.
Yeah, I found those.
David Carl Johnson, PhD. So these are the two quotes I found interesting. Let me begin by simply saying that it's horrendous Christian theology and inaccurate Christmas history aside, Saving Christmas is just a terrible movie, so that's obviously worth bearing in mind. And then the second one, Cameron's reasoning is so lazy and loose that everything is about everything. All you have to do is find some loose, vague, conspiracy-like metaphorical connection and poof, you can claim whatever you want. This is apparently his version of Christian scholarship, far superior in his eyes to biblical exegesis, which he has his black comedy relief say he doesn't need because he already has his extra-Jesus. So extra-Jesus, of course. And exegesis is actually looking at what's in the Bible. So I thought it might be worth just taking a brief second to actually look at what's in the Bible. And this is 1 Corinthians 8. It's actually the whole chapter, but it's a short chapter. So
why do I get the feeling this won't be a brief second?
Food. So the heading of this, okay, is food offered to idols. Now, concerning food offered to idols, we know that all of us possess knowledge. This knowledge puffs up, but love builds up. If anyone imagines that he knows something he does not know yet, as he ought to know, but if anyone loves God, he is known by God. Therefore, as to eating of food offered to idols, we know that an idol has no real existence, and that there is no God but one. For although there may be so-called gods in heaven and on earth, as indeed there are many gods and many lords, yet for us there is one God, the Father, for whom all things are, and for whom we exist, and one Lord Jesus Christ, through whom are all things, and through whom we exist. It goes on for a final paragraph, and it uses a lot of wordy language. So basically, all it's saying at the end is it says, if somebody you know would be led astray by seeing you eat idols, food offered to idols, then that would be bad. But the main point here is the bit where it says, as for food offered to idols, an idol has no real existence, and there is no God but one. And I think this is an important point, because the Bible, while that's not specifically talking about Christmas, Paul here is talking about food that is offered to idols as a sacrifice. And Paul essentially says, hey, it doesn't matter, because those pagan idols aren't actually real things. They're not a real God that exists. There's only one God that exists. And that's really important, like, to basically say, and that pretty much covers it. So it's like, oh, should I do this? Well, does it really matter that it has pagan origins when it is all created by God? And people make this argument all the time. There are Jehovah's Witnesses, and this is when I first started using this argument, when I was like seeing Jehovah's Witnesses say, oh, Christmas has pagan origins. And I just thought to myself, well, hold on a minute. Paul already addresses this. He already says it doesn't matter if something has pagan origins. What matters is, are you using it in a way that glorifies the real God who exists? Because while it might not be politically correct to say this, a real Christian should believe that pagan gods don't exist, so it doesn't matter. And of course, Muslims make this argument. They think that Paul was evil because, Paul wanted people to eat food sacrificed to idols. But the problem is, by making this argument, they're obscuring the actual argument. Because the problem is, Kirk Cameron, he's setting people up to failure, because he's making all of these Christians, these evangelical Christians, go out believing, oh yeah, there's no problem with, the Christian symbols. They're not pagan at all. They're actually 100% Christian. They're 100% based in the Bible. When they meet the Jehovah's Witness or the Muslim who says, oh, why do you have all this pagan stuff? You may honestly just be asking in complete, fairness. They'll go, oh, don't worry. That tree over there? Yeah, it's the cross. Because if you took away the leaves and the branches and then you put another beam across it, that would be a cross. And nobody's going to be convinced by that. And the annoying thing is, if they just said the obvious point, the point that the Bible already makes clear, and just say, hey, we actually only believe in one God, the God who created everything. So even if that turkey that they serve on Christmas Eve was sacrificed at the shrine of Moloch, that wouldn't bother us, because we don't believe that Moloch exists. We don't believe that the shrine of Moloch is anything other than a bunch of wood and gold and marble or anything else. It doesn't matter. So basically saying, and it reminds me of the...
Don't be insecure.
Exactly. It reminds me of the KJVO people. So do you know Steven Anderson? I wonder if you do, because he's quite famous. Okay, so basically he became famous for saying that he was praying for Obama to die, and also that he celebrated the Pulse nightclub shooting, because it was like, good news is now 50 less pedophiles in the world, because all those gays are pedophiles. Anyway, but the other thing, he's King James Version only, and King James Version only people believe that the King James Version is the only valid Bible translation in the English language. And he literally believes that you cannot be saved unless you have read at least one verse of the King James Version only Bible. And I bring that up because what he essentially says, he says, this is the perfect Bible as it was revealed to the original people who wrote the book. And the truth is, Luke, we don't have the original Bible as it was originally revealed to the people who wrote the book. We know that there are a huge number of textual variations in the Gospels. We have lots of those variations. So we already know they exist, because we've got the Gospels are the most well-sourced manuscript from antiquity, and we have loads of them. So we already know that in the book of Jeremiah, it says, hey, we rewrote this multiple times, editing it loads of times. We know this stuff. And the thing is, the actual academics who know all of this, like there's a really good lecture by a guy called Tim Mackey called The Making of the Bible. He basically goes through it and he says, look, I know all of this stuff because I originally approached Christianity from an academic mindset, but I meet many Christians who walk up to me and say, hey, I'm really struggling with Christianity because I went to this lecture by this atheist scholar and they spoke about how the Bible's been changed. And Tim Mackey's basically like, well, yeah, we know the Bible's been changed. Like, that's not even a debate. That's not something which Christians had ever even denied. So the point being, in other words, that the actual argument is to say, yeah, the Bible's been changed, but it hasn't been fundamentally changed. We know what most of the changes are because we have a huge variety of manuscripts. Like, it's because we have all these manuscripts, we know the Bible's been changed, but it's also because we have so many of those manuscripts that we know there is no alternative version of the essential Christian doctrines in any of those manuscripts. Point being, there is a good argument there that idiots like Stephen Anderson say, oh yeah, well, we've got the exact perfect Bible as it was originally revealed to Luke and John and Matthew and Mark, and it's like crazy. And that's the thing, like, this is exactly what Kirk Cameron's doing. The intelligent thing to say is, yeah, we know that these things have pagan origins, that the Bible has pagan origins, but we also know that the Bible says, hey, it doesn't matter that things have pagan origins because there's only one God, all other things are created by him, is blah, 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 blah. And number two, we're using it in a way that makes people happy, that, there's nothing wrong with it. Like, you look at how things are affecting things now. So that's like, and the final thing, and this is the really fun thing I really just want to drive home, is that actually the God described in 1 Corinthians 8 is a very powerful God. Because in 1 Corinthians 8, Paul presents a very glorious version of a deity. He creates a deity or presents a deity who is so sovereign that you can sacrifice food to a pagan god and still eat that food, because compared to God, that pagan god is nothing. He doesn't exist. He's just made up. The idol, the shrine, is nothing. It's material which was created by God. And for me, personally, one reason why I'm a Christian as opposed to any other religion is because if there is a God who exists, who is the creator of the universe, then the God described by Paul, who doesn't care whether or not something is pagan, he doesn't care whether or not something, technically was started by the Druids, or actually that's to do with the Roman holiday of Saturnalia. He doesn't care about that. What he cares about is it making people happy? Is it bringing people together? Is it centering on the spirit of the law rather than the word of the law? Of course, Paul talks about it as, it's not about the word of the law. It's not about getting everything 100% accurate according to the technical legalese. It's about the spirit of the law, which is love and hope and charity and all that stuff. So, and I don't know, so obviously you are not Christian, but I think maybe you would agree that actually the God presented by Paul, the God who says, hey, it doesn't matter where these things have their technical origin. What matters is how you're using them, the effect they're having on people, and ultimately there's one God, and he's in charge of everything. That's actually a much more powerful and compelling God than the God created by Kirk Cameron, who's like, well, actually, if you, I made trees, so that's why, even though the pagans were using trees, actually it means it's technically celebrating me, because the tree kind of looks like a cross. What do you think, Luke? And may I just remind you, I just want to point out, you are officially my sister's brother-in-law, so now I've explained all of this to you. You are now obligated to say, wow, Michael, I never looked at it that way before. That's incredible. So,
yeah, it's awesome.
Good.
It's awesome. Wow. Yeah. No. To be fair, that was an impression of what Cameron says in the movie. It's awesome.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I think.
Paul, no, what you got to say? You got to say, wow, Paul is the man.
Yeah.
That's like. I mean, you see what I'm saying, right?
Yes, I think you're right. And at the end of the day, Kirk Cameron and the God he presents, it does seem quite, like nitpicky and, just the fucking argument about crosses or trees.
I think petty would be like a good word for it.
Petty, that's a good word. Yeah. That's a very good word.
And that's the thing, like, that's what I like about the actual God as presented in the Bible, is that unlike some other gods, like, for example, the Mormon God who's going to go upset if you don't, if you drink coffee and stuff, the God of the Bible isn't particularly petty. He's like, hey, you want to eat some food that's been sacrificed to idols? That's fine. It's cool. As long as you don't, like, put anyone else astray, as long as you're not harming somebody else by doing it, it's fine. And, like, yeah, good. Well done. Anyway, with the ending of that nice little rant, how about we look at the ending of Kirk Cameron's nice little rant? So why don't you take this one, Luke, seeing as you've been silent for a bit?
Sure thing, Michael. So, Christian, as you mentioned, you've talked about how Kirk Cameron's, message throughout this movie is complete bullshit, and we've dissected that, you have in particular. But anyway, Christian, he's convinced by it all. Doesn't matter. He says, I'm going to be that guy about 20 times. I'm going to be that guy.
Yeah.
Then he runs into the house, which causes everybody to look at him. And I like how Kirk Cameron just, appears on his shoulder. Just tapping him, brilliant. Yeah. He slides on the floor so he can get a nice metaphor of how the presents look like a city or some dumb shit like that. Again, just like completely made up on the fly. Yeah, just again, right out of Kirk Cameron's ass, that one. Well, I don't think there's any Christian theology that supports that right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's a truth to the statement that in the Revelation it basically says there'll be a city, which is the New Jerusalem, where everything will be great, and in the center of that city will be the Tree of Life. The problem is the Tree of Life, it doesn't have presents underneath it, and so basically he's right in saying that there is in the Bible a city with a tree in the middle of it. But apart from that, there's also, by the way,
it's the leap to make presents.
Yes,
look
in the presence
like,
of the city. Yeah, that's the problem. Yes.
What the yeah, well, when you look at presents, that definitely looks like fucking New York.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, they really should have got some presents that actually, like, that's. I like if they were just like a kid walks in and goes unwraps, and it's like, oh, it's a model city, just what I wanted. Anyway.
So yeah, Christian is just there gawking at the presents as his wife looks over to him, thinking, "What the fuck is he doing? I'm gonna divorce that guy." Kirk Cameron, like I said, explaining the presents under the tree, but he's doing it in his head. Like, I like to believe he's just saying it out loud to everyone at the party. That little narration that he gives, but he's not, obviously. So that means Christian can hear him.
Yeah.
Even though he's not singing anything. They've just gone super lazy now.
Yeah.
They're not even bothered to do, he's actually talking to him in the car. It's just, no, Christian can hear him.
Or maybe Kirk Cameron is just a figment of Christian's imagination.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Maybe that would be a good twist. Yeah, he's not even... But yeah, obviously that's not the case. He's not even pretending it's a conversation anymore, or the movie isn't pretending it's a conversation anymore, which is ridiculous. And then at the end, they have a nice dance.
Okay, well, first of all, actually, before we get into dance, I just want to say one other thing that maybe I found funny. The way, like, just before he shows up in the house, he's like stressing over how he's going to kind of make it up to his wife, and it's like Kirk Cameron's like, you just got to go in there and admit that you've been a right dickhead. And then he's like, oh, can't you do it for me? I really don't want to do it. And you think, like, in reality, like, what you would do is you just show up and go, hey, I'm ready to do some Christmas. And she, like, maybe be like, oh, I thought you weren't happy with Christmas. Oh, yeah, but I spoke to Kirk about it and we had a good conversation. But, like, the funny thing about this is literally, like, because what annoys me is the arrogance of, like, what Kirk Cameron's doing. Like, only has he done, like, the whole, you're ruining everything, you suck, blah, blah, blah. And, like, every single time he's made an argument, I was like, wow, that's the best argument ever. But now he's literally, like, like, he has the character who disagrees with him be so ashamed for having had these issues about Christmas that it's, like, he's, like, a jerk. Like, it's like, oh, so even if you've had these, like, I don't get, like, if, like, surely the argument here would be, hey, if you've had these issues, fine. But no, it's like, if you've had these issues, you should be a jerk, and you should even be ashamed to go in there and face the rest of the people at the Christmas party. But I guess in the end, he just goes in there and slides on his stomach, so it's all right. But yeah, it's just Kirk Cameron, man.
Yeah, I know. Also, there's a bit about the idea about children needing to be reminded about the brutality of the birth of the baby Jesus. Let soldiers near the nativity. Oh yeah, sorry.
For a minute, when I thought you said the brutality, I thought you were talking about like the labour. Like, and I was like, what did they mention Mary's dilation at some point? No, yeah, okay, got you.
Yeah, and just to remind us, you kids, that the soldiers were going to absolutely eviscerate Jesus, which is very nice. And I wonder why Kirk Cameron insists that you tell your kids this, because it's obviously not a nice story. And I think he tries to do it, and evangelical Christians try to do it, to try and radicalize kids early on. Like, you put these horrible things in their mind and it fixes them on it. They now have an emotional fixation to Jesus and the birth of him. That would be my
think that's
why they do it.
A good theory, actually, I think.
Yeah. And so then obviously we get the song, which is like 10 minutes long, which again, you could... A very cynical version of me would say it's just there to add to the runtime.
Yeah, except they didn't even reach feature-length film.
I know. So I don't know why it's...
And that's with 10 minutes credits as well. Like, the credits are 10 minutes long, and that's because they include the outtakes in it. So did you watch the outtakes?
I didn't watch the outtakes, actually. I should go back and watch them. I definitely
It's just them ad-libbing. Like, because obviously, I guess you could tell... I mean, maybe this was a shock to you to hear, but a lot of the dialogue in this is ad-libbed. So you get like basically just the characters like saying loads of different things. Like literally, there's a bit where the black guy, like when he does his whole kind of rappy conspiracy rant thing, it's got him doing outtakes, and he literally just says some nonsense. And he literally says in the outtakes, he says, "I'm just saying whatever, just until you've got enough stuff to use." And it's like, okay, that's a great attitude to bring into making a film. Anyway,
just very lazy. So the song, they say it's a hip hop version of a what is it? It's a hip hop version of.
It's like Gloria, Hosanna. Oh wait, no, Excelsior Deo, or something like that. Yeah,
but it's hip hop. It's a hip hop version.
But
hip hop / pop version of it.
It's like horribly auto-tuned. Like, it's not even a good song. Like there are good Christian songs. I'm trying to think of one.
No, there aren't.
Well, what about? Okay, no, I got one.
Fucking fuck off! Don't lie.
Hooly dooly
Don't
wop
do that.
bam boom. Jesus Christ is coming soon. He'll appear in might and power. No one knows the day or hour. There we go. That's a good one. No, no, yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's like raps. There's like raps about Chris. Like you could have had something easy.
It's also like early 2000s, like punk rock.
It's so bad.
Like it's like Come to Bethlehem and see.
Yeah.
Just
I'm betting that band isn't even a famous band. It's almost definitely like a that one of the singers, or like probably not even say like the drum player is like a friend of the producer or something, and they were like, "Hey, would you do some music for our film?" And they're like, "Yeah," and like, let me just crank out the auto tune. Oh dear.
Yeah, like you said, we have beatbox and auto tune as well. It's just god awful. I remember when we get some really cool dancing.
Yes.
From David Doan and Kirk Cameron's wife. I mean, I think the word cringe... Oh, sister, sorry, yeah. The word cringe does not do this.
It was so good.
Justice. It really doesn't. I mean, here's the thing I got from this. Watch that scene and tell me Christians aren't desperate, that they are losing people to... just losing people to other faiths or to atheism. Like, that is a cry of desperation. Like, please like us, please like us. That's what it seems to me to be like.
Yeah, well, it's pretty funny though. You can't deny that. I mean,
no, it is pretty funny.
Tell you what, if they were doing that at church, I'm sure people would show up out of morbid curiosity.
Okay, definitely. So we should talk about race now in this movie. And while, like I said before, I was listening to a podcast on evangelical Christianity, and they were talking about like films in evangelical Christianity, and they said like there's always one black guy. Like the movies are never non-black. There's always like a black guy, but that black person is always a stereotype, and I think that fits DeAndre.
Yes,
a complete and utter stereotype. Like he walks up to Christian and he goes, "My man, Christian," and keeps wanting Christian to give him high fives. Yeah. Then goes along with the rant about Crazy Shirt Fridays, saying, "My people have been through enough." And it's like, black people, aren't they wacky and always going on about being black as well?
Yeah, that's true.
Great stuff. Yeah. I don't know if you picked up on this, by the way, but there was one... I replayed it because I just wanted to make sure this was right. When Kirk Cameron is describing the nativity scene to Christian, and he's talking about... Well, it's the manger scene, I guess, the nativity, whatever. Same thing. And he's saying where he's telling him to move beyond where everyone is safe and soft and where everyone has white skin and clean clothes. That's how he's trying to describe this scene to... I didn't
recognise that. I mean, I didn't notice it. But my brain
Christian. Did. Yeah. So he's trying to get Christian to picture the real nativity scene. And he says, move beyond where everyone is safe and soft, where everyone has white skin and clean clothes, implying that not having white skin is dirty or somehow elicits danger in somebody's mind. And I just went back because of that. Did you just say that? And it's kind of like a racial Freudian slip. Yeah. It's like, oh, look at how nice they are. They have white skin. Well, it wasn't really like that.
Yeah, but I guess at least he's kind of saying we should try to imagine him about white skin. Yeah, that's good, right?
Yeah. Take the positives where you can get them. DeAndre also says, "Can I get an amen?"
Oh yeah, he's like such a happy clappy black man church. Like it's like oh brothers and sisters, and like all these people come out and like these blues.
Oh, he doesn't do that. He does the hip hop dance.
He's like, oh brothers and sisters, let's get an amen to Christian. Great.
Then he's the DJ. Also, we've got to talk about this random scene in the middle of the movie with DeAndre and this guy who he looks white.
Oh yeah,
but he sounds black and says homie like quite a few times, which obviously
he may be Hispanic.
Slang. Is it now? It doesn't sound Hispanic.
He might be albino.
That's the thing. He actually does sound like black. Like if you obviously black people and white people have different accents.
He sounds like he speaks African American vernacular English.
Yeah, that's it. That's the phrase, vernacular English, yeah. But again, he looks like white. He's got very pale skin. Yes. So I'm really not sure what's going on here. Obviously, they're talking about the war on Christmas, sounding deranged and conspiratorial. Again, this scene in the movie is never brought up again. Yes. I thought they were going to go...
Yeah, he literally says, like, you know what we need to do, don't you? And then it cuts. I never thought about that, but it literally goes nowhere. Like, I was thinking I'd go back to it. Yeah, oh, wow. Oh, that's brilliant. Also, actually, we should point out, because I mentioned this earlier, obviously, how you have that line, who needs exegesis when you have extra Jesus, whatever it is. And it's like, again, you have this kind of white guy who's basically taking the scholastic position of actually caring about exegesis. And then you've got this black guy who's like, oh man, I don't need no... Okay, no, that's not that voice. He's like, hey man, I don't need no exegesis. I don't need none of that fancy white people talk. I've got extra Jesus, brother, my man. He's also randomly like really kind of Pentecostal because he's like, oh, I'm happy because I got the spirits. I got the charismatic spirits. I can feel the spirit speaking through me. And it's like, the rest of the film's not like that, so I don't know. But apparently...
Oh, yeah, it's just because he's black.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it.
That's why he's talking like that. So yeah, that's the racing. Again, very problematic. I really I do like that line about white skin. Which, again, just... I don't think many people would have caught that, and like you say, you did, but I just went back and... Yeah, that's great. Love it. So anyway, just one more thing about our character, Uncle Bill. Uncle Bill.
Oh, is he the guy who's like, just, is he the one who's, just lying there doing nothing? He's
unemployed.
The Santa guy, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, he's Santa. Yeah. So here's the thing, Kirk Cameron's family is rich.
Yeah.
I don't know why he'd be unemployed. Why do you think he would be unemployed?
And maybe that's what they mean when they say it's a fictionalized version of Kirk Cameron. It's a fictionalized version of Kirk Cameron where he has an unemployed brother.
Well, that's the thing. Why would someone like that be unemployed?
Are you implying there is an answer that I'm missing?
I don't let him around kids.
Oh, got you, yeah. He's a paedophile.
Yeah.
He's a regular Prince Andrew.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Why would he sign up to do that job?
Because he wants to bang kids.
Well, it's just, I think it speaks for itself, doesn't it?
He's not a Catholic, though, at least. So. It's not as if there's been any problems with evangelicals abusing kids.
No, it's just Catholics. Yeah. Anyway, so we now move on to Kirk Cameron's response to critics.
Yeah, well, I think it's worth bearing in mind for context that we've had this entire film of like every single person who disagrees with Kirk Cameron being portrayed as obviously wrong, basically immoral, and very easy to be convinced the minute they hear his arguments. So I think that's important context to bear in mind how Kirk Cameron views himself and his arguments before we look at his response to critics.
Well, that's the thing. Kirk Cameron sees himself, as Jesus, and I'll get onto that on the conclusion.
Oh yeah.
Or maybe not as Jesus, as some like preacher who has all the answers and so forth. Yeah, in many ways, by the way, I think Christian is the perfect Christian, wouldn't you say?
Yes.
Easy manipulated, rich and white, ready to believe anything that anyone says to him.
Yeah.
Especially charismatic movie stars.
That's true. I am also
maybe not
kind of
rich
and kind of white.
Yeah, charismatic famous people, yeah. Anyway, well, let's get on to people who criticise Kirk Cameron and Kirk Cameron's response to that. So, like we said before, this movie has been widely panned one of the worst movies ever, one of the worst Christmas movies ever. It has a 0% rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, still to this day.
0. Yes. It was nominated for 6 categories in the 35th Golden Raspberry Awards and won 4, including Worst Picture. It also became the lowest rated film on the IMDb Bottom 100 list within 1 month of its theatrical release, and is considered one of the worst movies of all time. And as we'll go on to, Kirk Cameron didn't blame himself for that. No. On November 20th, Kirk Cameron responded to the negative reviews by posting on his Facebook page. He wrote, "Help me storm the gates of Rotten Tomatoes," Cameron wrote. "All you who love saving Christmas, go rate it at Rotten Tomatoes right now. Send the message to all the critics that we decide what movies we want our families to see." Yeah, just replace Saving Christmas with Batman v Superman, and that could literally be what the reaction was. Anyway, the attempt resulted in a severe backlash in which internet users travelled to Rotten Tomatoes and condemned the film. 3 weeks after the film's release, the film gained additional notoriety when it became the lowest rated film on IMDb's top 100 list. Cameron later responded to the low rating, saying it was due to a campaign on Reddit by haters and atheists. At least he differentiated them, I guess. Yeah, to purposely lower the film's ratings. So there you go. It's never Kirk Cameron's fault. That's the thing, like, many of the reviews that I saw were like, this movie is annoying to Christians as well.
Yeah.
So there you go. And I think, it's a... when Kirk Cameron thinks of himself this way as is portrayed in the movie, would he ever have that inner self-reflection to think, maybe I made a bad movie? Probably not.
No.
Anyway, Michael, let's conclude. You go first because I've talked for
Alright, yeah, so this film's not good. It's not a film, which I think is a pretty bad failing. There is no plot. There doesn't seem to have been much effort put into actually making it so you told a story with characters. The arguments made are not good. They don't really address the main criticisms being made. They are largely based on inaccuracies. They are also theologically going down completely the wrong track and making the exact opposite kind of arguments the arguments could be made. It should be pointed out that because I hope I kind of made this already quite clear, but that Christmas is a pagan holiday, that Christmas has many pagan elements incorporated into it, isn't actually an argument against Christianity. And I would argue that if you focused on the point Paul made about how the Christian God is more powerful than any pagan god, and therefore it doesn't matter if Christians take pagan elements and use them and reinterpret them, then you could actually make a strong argument for Christianity. And by the way, you could also make a strong argument talking about how there's nothing wrong with Japanese Christians incorporating Japanese aspects into their culture. That essentially Christianity shouldn't be a white European religion which focuses on Christmas. It should also be a Indian religion. It should be a Japanese religion. It should be an African religion. It should be a Native American religion. And anybody can take whatever elements of their culture they like and incorporate them into Christianity, because there's one God of all people and all cultures and all materials, blah, blah, blah. That would be a powerful argument to make. And he doesn't make that argument, so I can't even give him like good Christian propaganda points. I could make a better Christian propaganda film than this bozo. And then on top of all this, he's so arrogant in the way he presents it. So you're like, oh, it makes a terrible argument based on bad logic, based on bad theology. And then he has everyone be like, oh wow, Kirk Cameron, you're a real hero. And he calls it saving Christmas. He didn't save Christmas. Like, nobody's mind was going to get changed. No Jehovah's Witness is going to walk into this and come out going, oh yeah, I guess I should celebrate Christmas. No Muslim's going to walk into this and be like, oh yeah, I guess Christianity wasn't corrupted by the pagan Romans in the Council of Nicaea, blah, 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 blah. No, like, nobody's going to be convinced by this. So it's stupid. The only real tiny amount of credit I can give it is, I guess it's nice that they didn't harp on the old war on Christmas thing, which is of course nonsense, but apart from that, no, it's bad. And even though I could say I did enjoy this, in that I found it hilarious, especially the rap at the end, I just found it so dumb and like funny. And also I like this film because it was short. Frankly, if I was being absolutely honest, this probably isn't the film I'd least like to watch. There are other films I would like to watch less than this, but I know, being completely honest, based on the innumerable failings this film has, it has to be my worst film of so far, just based on the fact that objectively it fails so hard as a film and as a piece of Christian propaganda. So yes, Kirk Cameron's Saving Christmas is in my numbers 119 slot, the very bottom of the list.
Wow, that is certainly very, very harsh, Michael. But I have to say I agree. Yeah, this is, I think, the worst movie that I've ever seen, because it's not even a movie. It doesn't even attempt to make a movie, like you said. It's just Christian propaganda. It's not even Christian propaganda. It's like Kirk Cameron propaganda, yeah. And just using, just like you mentioned before, like we mentioned before, talking about how Christianity is on the 25th of December because of it's the darkest time of the year, and obviously we said, well, that's what the winter solstice is, you fucking moron. But beyond that, what if you live in Australia?
Yeah,
like obviously it wouldn't be the darkest time of the year. So there's again, like, you're just kind of, if you're Australian, why'd you have it on the 25th of Christmas? Well, it's because of the winter solstice. If it was the darkest time of the year, then surely Christians in Australia should
have it on the
celebrate
side,
Christmas in like July or whatever. So yeah, his reasoning is stupid. Again, he's working backwards from the premise, like, oh, I have to defend Christianity. I have to, because I'm so insecure about my religion, and other people are insecure and they're anxious about how Christianity isn't connected to Christmas. And yeah, it just comes off as really pathetic. So that's the actual movie, I guess. But I just want to talk about, from David Johnson again, the article you mentioned earlier, a really fine critique of Kirk Cameron, which obviously the article is titled "Saving Christmas from Kirk Cameron." And this is the part which I really like, which just sums up my thoughts on it. So he says, if reinterpreting the holiday symbols so that they remind you of Jesus helps you avoid such an overreaction, as in to reject Christmas, that's fine. If a Christmas tree reminds you of a crucifix because they're both made of wood, that's your business. However, should try and force that interpretation on all Christians and suggest that they impose that interpretation on everyone else, both secular and religious, to insist that people who disagree are not only wrong, but drank the Kool-Aid and are listening to the wrong people, i.e. not Kirk Cameron, to call people idiots just because they haven't recognised the same laboured, roundabout, equivocal, conspiratorial non-connections between secular and religious stories, and to think that such non-connections can rewrite history and overturn painstaking historical research, and then to produce and release a movie that stars oneself and one's own family, in which you simply articulate your own uninformed opinions and everyone just agrees with you and glorifies your brilliance in an effort to get everyone else to celebrate the holiday just like you and your family do in the name of Jesus. That requires a level of egomaniacal, narcissistic audacity that has to border on mental illness.
Pretty scathing.
And that right there, that's evangelical Christians, that last line. For a lot of them. maybe I'm being too harsh there. I don't know, but it does feel like a lot of them, you could say they are almost mentally ill. And I think Kirk Cameron, yeah, he is like just think about him producing this movie, thinking of creating this movie, and then starring in it. Like, my God, unbelievable. And the only reason I'm not going to give it a 0.5 out of 10 is because the fact that it is quite funny. But that can only bump it up to a 1.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give it a 1 out of 10. This is the worst movie I've ever reviewed. And yeah, I agree with you. So there we go.
It's nice when we agree. I guess Kirk Cameron has succeeded in bringing people together.
Yeah, and again, that last bit from David Johnson just sums it up so perfectly. So shout out to him. Anyway, Michael, because this is the last movie of the year we're going to review, we are now going to discuss, or we're going to go through the little competition we've been having this year.
Oh yeah, great.
In terms of guessing the release of new movies based on the movies we were reviewing at the time, and seeing who got the closest score to the actual Rotten Tomatoes score. So we reviewed 20 movies, Michael. We guessed 20 movies what their Rotten Tomatoes score was going to be throughout the year. And do you want to have a guess at what the scores were?
I think you won by, I want to say maybe 14-6.
No, 11-9.
Oh really? Okay, that's crazy. I thought you were doing way better.
It was quite close. You did quite well, actually. In the last, what is it? Yeah, in the last 6 we drew 3-3. So, in the last 7 you won 4-3.
Oh, great!
So you got better as the year went on.
I learned.
Yeah, you did. So, and by the way, I won the general election prediction. If we're counting.
Oh, well, that's not.
Yeah, that's not. Okay, so 11-9. I just edge it. But anyway, next year, Michael, we're going to be doing something a bit different with our predictions. Because, like you said. You brought this issue up earlier. If you guess the exact correct score,
yeah.
But for example, me with Rise of Skywalker, I was like 40 or 30, like 30 points off, but I get the same points if you guess the exact score. We're going to be doing something a little bit different, which rewards accuracy a bit more. So yeah, that's what we'll do in the new year.
Excited.
Anyway, thank you for listening. We've been selecting and reflecting on Kirk Cameron's Saving Christmas. What are we doing next time, Michael?
I'm so excited because Oscar season is nearly upon us, which means we can actually get back to reviewing real films. Of course, during the the run up to the Oscars, and in this case, actually going slightly over the Oscars, we are going to be looking at some of the films that won Oscars last year in some of the main categories, and that's going to be great. But before then, we are looking at one Best Picture winner, and that is, of course, the Best Picture winner for 1999, right? American Beauty.
Yeah, which won the Best Picture in 2000.
Yeah, in 2000, yeah, of course. So that's why, yeah. So 20
anyway,
Oscars ago.
So yeah, join us for that. Who have you been, Michael?
I've been Michael.
I've been Luke, and thanks for listening. Join us next time for American Beauty. Goodbye.
Goodbye.